Thank you for joining us for this episode of Inside Town Hall. I'm your host, Madeline Shields. Happy New Year. This month we're talking about the partnership between the City of Sioux Falls and Minnehaha County. And joining me is City Councilor Pat Starr, and his guest is Minnehaha County Commissioner Jeff Barth. Thank you both for being here. Happy New Year. Let's start off 2021 on a positive note, and it's going to be better.
It's got to be better from moving forward. Thank you, Madeline. It's nice to be here. One of the things that I wanted to do as part of this program is really focus. There's lots of things that happen in our community, and we don't realize which unit of government sometimes is responsible for doing the things. And a lot of them involve different units of government working together. And so, like you said, I wanted to really spotlight what the relationship is between the city. Is that the city's role, or is it the county's role? And ultimately it ends up being both of us. So Commissioner Barth, welcome, and thank you for joining us a little bit. We put together just kind of some random, or not random, but some topics that we can kind of roll through kind of quickly, talk about the relationship between the two governments, whether it's the city council and the mayor or the county, and how we take care of some of the social programs as well as some of the growth things that we've seen over the years. Maybe start with a little bit of an introduction and how much time you've spent on the county commission. You've been there for
this is my 15th year, and I plan to retire in 2 years, by the way. But yes, in my position as a county commissioner, I've had many interactions with the city of Sioux Falls and with the other communities in the county as well. And over that period of time, I've probably been involved in most everything that we do. And let me say that I really believe that the county is where people go to do business with the government. It's where you pay your taxes, where you get your marriage license, where you bail your brother-in-law out of jail. You don't go to City Hall to do those things. Although I think the mayor may have the power to marry people, but he better get a license first.
From the county.
Well, let's start off with a long-standing relationship, and that is Metro Communications. Metro Communications was created in 1980. Let's talk a little bit about how that works together. That's 911 for people who don't know.
Well, there's been an incredible change in that operation over these many years. Clearly, the population of the city and the county is burgeoning, and as that happens, we have to add more people to answer those calls, and the level of professionalism continues to go up and up. The taxes that pay for it are the telephone tax of $1.25 a line, and then the county city split the remaining costs 75-25, with the county, thank goodness, only paying 25%. And we have a Metro Council that oversees things. It's made up of the mayor and 2 councilors and 2 commissioners. I have
a question about that fee. So does that count on every cell phone as well as a landline?
It's supposed to, but to be honest, the revenue is going down. You might ask Verizon and AT&T if they have fewer phones out there now than they used to, but that's an issue that we are very serious about looking into regularly. The last time we suggested an audit, suddenly revenue increased. But
I would think you went from one landline to multiple telephones in the household.
Right.
Some of it where you're going to see some of the discrepancy is that all of the companies that have gone to voice over internet provider phones, and those aren't taxed as part of this. So large organizations that have gone to the voice over internet provider aren't paying the tax. So that's part of why that number flattens, I think, is my speculation of why that it's there. The other thing with Metro Communications that's really exciting is that we are including them as part of our fire and police training facility expansion. And what you're going to see it was funny, we saw some pictures not that long ago from the director showing us what it was like in the 50s, where there was one very small monitor and a couple of wires, to today where each operator has multiple screens, let alone the wiring, the technology, and the system has to be in a place where it's protected and from weather and other just that they're protected. So now including them as part of the training facility is really going to give them an upgrade in facility and technology and expansion, both as the county and the city continue to grow.
Well, and they are truly the first contact with saving a life. That's when you make that call into 911, they're the first responder.
Well, and Pat has been instrumental in getting us involved with the training facility that the city is building. Currently, we operate out of what's called the Public Safety Building, which is kind of next to the new jail, but it's built to take a nuclear blast. It'll survive tornadic events, etc. But our training facility for them is not a hardened location. And our hope would be that we move out to the law enforcement training facility and keep our current facility as the backup or training facility. And it's kind of a dungeon where they're at now. But it used to be back in the old days that there'd be an accident at 14th and Cliff and somebody would call it in. Now there's an accident at 14th and Cliff and 14 people call it in because they all have their cell phone with them. So they get a lot more calls based just on how many eyes are on the issue.
What's nice about it is that because it's a good and a bad thing being in a tight location, because one dispatcher can hear a call coming in and listen in as part of that and get the fire department rolling quicker, to get the police department or an ambulance or multiple things so they can work together as a team. And that part of it really clicks really well. It's a high stress job, but at the same time they are very good at what they do. And it's our response times to accidents and those emergencies really are because they are that finely tuned and doing a good job. So as we've grown, we need to just get them better facilities and be able to take care of themselves, and to be able to have multiple locations in those cases where there would be a natural disaster that would potentially need them to be in several locations, or could affect anything from internet to radio communications.
Sure. What's the timeline on the new training center to be opened?
2 years?
Yeah, we're roughly about 2 years by the time you put everything in place. We're in the design process right now that they've kind of done the rough design, the cost estimates and things, and so we're moving to that next part of that. So as we move to the north part of town, it's going to be, but the other thing that it did by providing that new facility is that we are allowing our officers to be trained, new officers to be trained here in Sioux Falls. And as we move forward, we'll have, the training academy in Pierre had become just so overrun, and to have enough people and enough spots available as we continue to add to our police force, the sheriff's department continues to add or train new officers, as well as every other law enforcement across the state of South Dakota. So we're already training that first class of officers, Sioux Falls Police Department in Sioux Falls. We won't have the finished facility that will be nice for the couple of years, but we're able to get new officers replaced a lot quicker with retirements and as they move up or move on to other careers.
Okay. Well, let's move on to the next partnership, and that is the link. And if people haven't heard what the link is, that is what we've been referring to for the last couple of years as the triage center. And so now they have a name, which is exciting. So let's talk a little bit about what is the link and how is it going to be helpful to the community, and what is all of the, there's not just the city and the county in this partnership.
Absolutely. The medical community has really jumped on board. A lot of our med school and our medical training people are included in the process. But what's really the beginning of the link or the triage center was we weren't, as a city, taking care of our most vulnerable as well as we could. We were taking them to the hospital for detox, which is very expensive. We were getting mental health, but only doing it in a partial way. And we said there's got to be a better way. And commissioners, council members, the mayor, previous mayor, this mayor, we've kind of all come together and said, okay, we can do this more effectively, provide better services for people who need the mental health care, alcohol detox, and those things, and can't we put them in? So we went out and did some investigation of what goes on around the rest of the country. The county really, with their grant writer, and really put, I think Aaron did, Surska did an incredible job of saying, okay, what's out there? Where can we get the grant money just to investigate so we can do a better job? And that's where we've gotten to with the link.
Well, and the reason the hospitals are such strong participants is because they are a great beneficiary of this. I can't remember which hospital it was, but one of them had 850 people removed from their emergency room who were disrupted, intoxicated, whatever, and were in the wrong place. And you know, many people need to be institutionalized, but not necessarily in jail or in prison. And so this will help us find a place for them. And we have our mobile mental illness group that reports with the police in many cases to say, you know, we can leave somebody at their home, or else we need to take them to the jail, or else they need to go to detox. And the idea is going to jail is very expensive. As the county says, as soon as you say you're under arrest, the county's ticker starts running as we incarcerate you, prosecute you, defend you, etc. And we expect to have a savings from this program.
So typically, the most, when you talked about the most vulnerable people, so say it's someone who's maybe, you know, homeless, they're intoxicated, or they're under the influence of alcohol or drugs. The police are called, and now they take them somewhere. And if they take them to detox, you know, oftentimes there's a limited amount of people that can be there. Then they go to the hospital, and then this is all incurring costs for the county or for the city or for both.
Mainly for the county.
Okay.
See, there's where we'll disagree. It does, what it does with the limited police department who are trained in law enforcement, they're not trained in mental health conditioning. They're not trained in the detox as much as someone else.
Sure.
So what was happening is that they were, and it's still happening, is that they either went to the county detox, they go to the emergency room, but the officers are there and can't provide the care that these folks need. And they may spend the night in detox, and then they're back on the street the next day. No one's had a chance to talk to them about, okay, you know, this is another time that you really had to be here. Can we do something to help you? What are, you know, the things that a mental health professional counselor could say? And so the link is going to be able to afford people to stay several days. Maybe it'll take a couple of days to get the mental health person that they need, to get back on the medications that they need, to get the family help that they need. So it's, rather than just treating that immediate need and then sending them back out to do the same thing again, we're, with the link, going to be able to help people maybe change some of the things that are going on in their life, to be able to address the problems, the concerns that they had, whether it's healthcare or personal, whatever they need, that it's going to be that amount of resources available in one place. Maybe just a stable place to stay for a while, or housing, or to all the services. We do a great job in Sioux Falls of providing a lot of services for people that are in need, but the link's going to bring it all together in one place so that you have a chance. But it'll also get our police officers back out on the street dealing with crime that they're trained specifically for, rather than doing the mental health and the healthcare side of it. So.
And Pat, you've done a ride-along with the police officers, and how many of the calls you went on had to do with mental illness?
I would say 90% of the shift with the ride-along that I did this summer back in August, that it was one of those that they were dealing with runaways, they were dealing with people who needed to go to detox, there were people who were just not what you would consider cops and robbers type of things that we see with folks. And so if we can get our law enforcement people doing law enforcement, and we can get our mental health and healthcare people doing healthcare things, we can ultimately help a lot more people and maybe cut down on the number of things. I think one of the things that you've been real active with is that the county level is Safe Home, and it's not on our list, but people who are chronic alcoholics, but we found them a place to live. We find them some food, we deal with them where they're at. It saves the taxpayers money, but it also saves human beings just the care that they need with where they're at in their life.
Well, just to talk a little bit about the partnerships, it's the City of Sioux Falls, Minnehaha County, Avera Health, Sanford Health, and Smithfield Foods also donated $400,000 to the link, and talk about how that's become a private public-private partnership.
Well, obviously, if we don't have to spend taxpayer money, makes us, or me anyway, happy. It's very gratifying to see the hospitals in Smithfield come forward on that, and certainly our staff and Pat's staff have worked on making this a success, and it's not really in full operation yet, but I believe it's going to be wonderful. And as he talked about Safe Home, I think that helped a lot of people on the street. And anecdotally, our public defender said the residents there show up for court on the day they're supposed to be in court, etc. And that saves the county money too.
Well, from what I understand, when people have a home, they are no longer going to the emergency room. They're not getting run over by cars. They're not being injured. They're not freezing, and that's all saves county dollars, city dollars.
Right, and it's not just dollars. To be honest, if street people intoxicated are being transported to the hospital, and I call for an ambulance for my wife or granddaughter, and they're all tied up with those guys, it saves resources, saves an ambulance to be available to help me, and that's really a significant thing in my view.
And give me your reaction to businesses like this stepping up, and if there's a business out there that says, hey, that's something that might be in our mission statement. Why is that so important to have everyone, I guess, be invested in everybody in the community?
Well, when you spread the load, it's an easier load for everybody, and I really, really do appreciate the hospitals and Smithfield on this, and the federal government and anyone else that's chipped in on this, the city.
I think the facility is going to be very creative in fundraising as we move forward, and I think there will be opportunities for other businesses to step forward that just are looking for a way to make our community better and to take care of people. We look at the cost savings to government, and that motivates us to put a program together, but it's also the people who are on the street and the people who need that help. This is the best way to provide care. Again, like I talked about earlier, we have lots of services all around our community, but tying them all together so that we can get people to the points where they can get the help that they need, so people aren't soliciting money on the close to the interstate, and people aren't doing that kind of panhandling, and the services is there. We just have to get people to the services.
Sure. Let's move on to this is something that affects all citizens, and that is the Siouxland libraries and the Siouxland museums. There's a city and county partnerships there, even though it's called Siouxland.
Well, with the libraries, we went together some years back, and all the libraries except for Del Rapids are part of the system. And if you need a book that's currently at the Colton Library, the library in Sioux Falls will request it to come here, and you can pick it up when it's here. And so it increased the size of our archive of books and other media as well. I mean, you can borrow CDs and DVDs and other multimedia things. And we have a little levy that we use in the county that goes towards that. and it appears on your bill if you're paying property tax. And some people say, why do I need a library? I'm hesitant to explain to them why.
Well, it's amazing how people forget that there are free books out there because they've gotten into a habit. I had a friend say, well, where'd you get that book? I said, the library. I didn't know. I didn't even think of that. It's kind of, it's a different world we live in now.
It sure is.
However, the convenience of it. I think if people haven't been to the library recently, like you said, if there's a book in Colton or Baltic, they'll get it to you within a day or so. In the sharing, that started in 1995. How difficult was it to get those outlying libraries to come into the fold?
I don't remember.
I was going to say
that was before your time, I guess. Yeah,
a really great question that we get to.
It was before, you can say it's before your time there.
It's before my time. I can tell you that my colleague Cindy Heiberger was a champion of the book bus, or whatever they call it.
The bookmobile.
The bookmobile.
Yeah.
They were going to do away with it, and she that's one of her claims to fame, and perhaps part of the reason why she's involved in politics, because she wanted to protect that as a rural resident.
Absolutely. My kids spent every other Tuesday on the bookmobile after school. They bring the videos and books, and it was a great service.
The library has grown into so much more, though, than just books. Mm-hmm. There are online subscriptions. The library in my part of town actually provides, I wouldn't say that we intentionally provide childcare service, but a lot of the kids that leave the school end up at the library after school while they wait for their parents to get off. In fact, they serve snacks, and there's a programming and arts and crafts, and continue that education that comes from the normal or the traditional school day, and it's enhanced till 6 or 7 o'clock at night a lot of nights that the kids are able to use the library system. It's an incredible process. Director Fick does a great job of not just the what we think of, that we go in, we get a book, we're really quiet, and we move on. It's probably one of the most active locations right after school all across the city, and in those rural areas too. So I encourage people to find out what's going on in their neighborhood libraries. There's all kinds of programming in addition to the books, and so that there are those online subscriptions. You're able to do audiobooks online. My wife and I listen to a novel usually before bed, so I don't know if that helps us literacy by not reading, but being able to listen as it goes in the evening, but it's something that works for us, and there's just that multiple activities that are available.
What time do they serve snacks?
About your nap time, about 3:30 to 4 o'clock after school.
And then we have the museums too. Let's talk a little bit about that.
You are so lucky to have us here, because we're about 20% of the board of directors of the museums. We're both serve on the museum board, and that has been a particular issue for me over the years. I know that building the new Irene Hall facility was a dream, and it was dead in the water. It took 10 years for us to get that accomplished, even though the land was donated. So there's the Pettigrew, the Courthouse Museum, and now the Irene Hall facility.
Explain what the Irene Hall is, because we haven't done anything on Inside Town Hall on that for maybe a couple of years.
Well, basically the Hall family donated the land to the museum, and we built a brand new building up there by the Pentagon, which we then unpacked the attic of the Courthouse Museum and took tons and tons of items out there to be stored, because it was actually so much weight in the Courthouse Museum that the stability of the courthouse itself was under question. And honestly, the Courthouse Museum, the building itself, the old courthouse, is probably our our greatest artifact, or close to it. And we're glad to have it, this new building built, and it's beautiful, climate controlled, and I'm looking forward to more progress out there, perhaps with an area for exhibits to be displayed and stuff like that. But I'll tell you that back in the day it was dead in the water. Our previous mayor didn't much care for it, and Michelle Erpenbach and I sat down with our museum director, Bill Hoskins, in the basement of the Pettigrew, and how can we get this moving? And we did, and it's done. I can retire now.
One of the exciting things about the research facility or the resource center is that the museum system has all of these great artifacts of this region of the country, and they were all categorized, but to be able to access them, to be able to use the resources that were there, this new facility has provided that opportunity. I think the old courthouse let out a big sigh of relief because you could see the boards actually lift off the floor because the collection was too much for where it was being used, that you couldn't actually use and do the research. Now we have a research facility where people can do that, and in fact at our board meeting earlier this month in January, we talked about some of the artifacts being loaned to local museums across the upper Midwest, and there was one in Spencer, Iowa that we're able to use some of our Native American collection and early pioneer things to put an exhibit together. So we're able to loan those things out and actually put them all together so the public can actually see the collection.
Okay. We just have a couple of minutes left, so let's talk a little bit about what some of the joint jurisdictions that the city and county share.
Absolutely, Madeline. One of the things that we do a good job as a city with the county is being able to work together as the city continues to grow outside of our boundaries, and as we do more taking a look at annexation. In fact, in January, we've added some land that was voluntarily, or the landowner asked to be annexed into the city, that will continue development of the city. So what's nice is that we've come together as the county and the city so that as people build in the county and they're outside the city limits, but they're in that buffer zone around the city, that we can say, hey, we're going to get there eventually. Let's work together to put not only the restrictions, but what's appropriate for that development, so that people don't build right on top of the city limits and then have to make changes in the future, and that the planning and the thought process wasn't there moving forward. Okay. So it's one of those things that maybe we get a little contentious with each other, but what is the future of the city and the county? And so to be able to actually have those in a civil manner, in the right place, we're able to do that. So.
And it has worked out very well. You know, there are people in the rural area that don't want to have people they can't vote for making decisions about how they can use their land. But we work through those issues and try to find solutions. You know, what would make it more palatable for you? Let's make it happen.
All right, and I think we'll see more of this collaboration as the city grows and the county grows, and everybody works together. All right. Well, thank you both for joining us for this month's Inside Town Hall. Well, that's our time. Happy New Year. And if you would like more information about what's going on in the city of Sioux Falls, you can go to siouxfalls.org, and you can opt in for notifications on snow removal and traffic information. So Happy New Year, and we wish you a happy, safe, and healthy 2021.